Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I know it's just the top of the hour. I think people will still be dialing in, but want to get started in a timely fashion. So today is all about cool tips and tricks with TeamRaiser. Just some housekeeping. We are going to be recording this, so if you join late or if you want to share this with a coworker or review it later, we will be sharing this. You'll receive an email, and we'll also be posting it to the resources page of our website. Feel free, and please do, submit questions as you think of them into the questions area of the little control panel. As you think of them, we'll try to answer them as we go, and if nothing else, we'll get hopefully to all of them at the end. Hopefully, you have a lot of questions. We're going to show off a bunch of stuff. There's a whole lot you can do with TeamRaiser, as many of you already know. So hopefully these are hitting some of the things that you're interested in. Feel free to offer up questions, comments, feedback, other suggestions. Love to see it all. So without further ado, let me go ahead and jump right in. I'm Mark Becker, the founding partner of Cathexis Partners. Started the company coming up on 13 years ago now. We've supported over 1,000 clients over the years, and we've been virtual since before it was cool. Since the beginning of this, helps with low overhead and keeps our support prices down to help organizations make the most out of the technology they're using. And we are a Blackbaud partner channel, and we have over 20 team members, 3 of which will be joining today and speaking today: Andrea, Marcy, and Jeff, a couple of our account managers and developers. And it's really kind of a stew, right? I think the account managers are also developers, and more every day. And Jeff also directly supports a lot of our clients as an account contact. So you're going to have years of experience that is going to be brought to the table today. So again, let's go ahead and jump right into the cool stuff. First up is Jeff.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So to start, let's talk about optimizing our registration flows and getting users into our TeamRaisers and registered as participants. One of the first things that we want to do is make sure that we're making registration easy and intuitive and make it as simple as possible. One of the things that I recommend is enforcing returning users to log in. This can help with a whole myriad of things. And in conjunction with that, I would recommend setting the returning user login to step 1. That should be the first thing that I recommend you do for your users. What this will do is this will help prevent users from being bumped out of the registration flow if they need to reset their password. This will have the biggest impact on team captains who might need to not only choose their team name, but they may also need to associate their team with a company and division. And so having to be bumped out of the registration flow after configuring their team and taking the time to make sure they have the perfect name and spelling for their team and ensuring they're properly associated, this can cut down on some of that frustration. And if a user needs to reset the password is triggered from within the registration flow, but they have to navigate back to their inbox, and then they have to walk through the password reset flow. And then once they're brought back, they're not brought back into, in most cases, to the TeamRaiser or even where they left off. So that can be really frustrating for some users. And another reason why I recommend setting this to the first step is that returning users may not recognize or remember their username, the password, or the email that they used to register either for previous events or to use with the previous transactions or interactions. So to set the returning user login page to the first step, you want to navigate to edit event options, edit your advanced options. You want to define your miscellaneous options and then choose returning user login page location and just select the radio next to first step, as we can see in the picture here in the slide. Now we can do additional registration questions to be used creatively to help shorten the registration flow, to power custom badges, progress meters, and things like that. This can be also used, these custom questions can also be used to facilitate things like your waiver and in turn be used to reduce the number of clicks and steps that users must proceed in order to complete their registration. So continuing on with the returning user login page, you're not stuck just using the default user login page. With a little bit of clever work, some jQuery, CSS, and a little bit of custom HTML, we can fine tune how that first page looks. So we can present users with several steps as it appears to the end user by first presenting them with a page that asks them if they've ever participated with your event. And in this example, we can see screenshots from a sample that we created for another organization, Highmark Walk. And so they have a whole host of events, and participants could have participated in any number of events over the years. So what we do is we first present this question asking if they've ever participated. This helps let the user know that they essentially have a user account, even if they don't realize it. And so you could change the wording, phrasing to be something like, have you ever made a donation, purchased tickets, or anything like that? So if the user clicks no, then they're directed into the login flow, or the registration flow, the first step. And if they click yes, they'll see the returning user login field. If they input incorrect information, they'll see an error with a link offering the ability to go through something like the password reset. So if they click on the help, I can't remember my login information, then the reset email or reset password email prompt is presented on the screen, and then they can walk through that process. So we can do simple things to help expedite and simplify the process of returning users by coaching them through and helping them remember what their information is before they ever get bumped out of the registration and before they get frustrated that they have to restart creating their team. And up next, thanks, Mark. And so up next, we have Andrea.
All right, all yours, Andrea. I think you might be on mute. Details.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Mark. So this is also some user interface tricks and tips you can do to encourage self-donations. This is a fundraising event that you're doing, so you want to make it easy for people to donate as part of their registration process. So self-donation, that's kind of our industry jargon for it, and we usually don't say that term to participants. So a language that resonates better with them might be to say, donate to yourself or make a personal donation. Sometimes we say, kickstart your fundraising by making a gift to your page. So just some basic things you can do is make sure that additional gift setting in your TeamRaiser is turned on. And it's also very easy to activate the self-donor badge in your TeamRaiser. These are all native settings. And you don't need to do much of anything fancy for the badge. There's a red ribbon that's already included. And you can see on this slide, there's a little sample. For this one, it says leads by example. This person has donated in support of, and then you want to say very briefly what it, like essential family programs or what it is that your mission is. This is just one idea for what your badge could say. But you want to, it's nice to reward the participants who have donated by showing. You can also encourage in the follow-up communications. You can target those who haven't made a gift yet by using conditionals in your messaging, whether it's autoresponders or follow-up emails. So every time that you're thanking someone for participating, you can add a little push. So if they self-donated, thank you for participating and making the gift. And if they haven't, you can say, thanks for participating. Would you also take it to the next level and make a gift? So on the next slide, we show you the technical way to do that. There's an if button on the toolbar when you're editing those messages, and you can use that to find the TeamRaiser conditionals and select that self-donor status as the thing to key off of. So,
and we'll dig into this a bit more with some other examples, but the conditionals are definitely huge in autoresponders and all that, and I think, highly underutilized by a lot of clients. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, Andrea. Anything else there?
No, just one little thing. The bubble here shows that how you can even point them to the donation page that will credit their page for the gift they make.
Nice.
So it shows up on their meter.
Personalized S tag. I like it.
Yeah.
All right. Marcy.
Yes. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Andrea. Going back to the registration flow, one of the questions that we get from clients is, how can we tell how many people start registration but don't finish it? And there's not really a direct way to manage that. But jumping off from Jeff's suggestion of moving registration to the first step, one of the things that we can do with some small modifications is actually use group membership to identify people who started registration but did not finish it. The modification is that we actually, instead of using registration in step one, we take, or that login in step one, we actually take that out of TeamRaiser and we put it in surveys. So we prompt somebody to log in or create their new account before they actually enter the TeamRaiser registration flow. Now, visually, we can make it look, like Jeff was talking about the CSS and the styling so that it looks like it's all part of the flow. But that is key, especially for new users if they don't have an existing record, because we need the person to be logged in before we can use that group membership to track how far they get. If we use the TeamRaiser registration, they're not logged in until after the personal information page. So we might lose whether they made it to the join or form a team or participation options page, if they clicked on that button or where they got. So we move registration to first. We also create a group for the registration abandonment. And then what we're seeing on the screen here is the use of U tags. So there's a U2 and then the group ID, the 5-digit code here, it's 12345. And on every page of the registration flow, we're going to add that U2 with the group ID to every page within the HTML caption area. And we do every page just as a safety net to make sure we don't miss anybody. And the code around that U2 tag, the caret, exclamation, dash, dash, and then the dash, dash, caret at the end of the line, essentially comments that out. So it hides it from the user and it only shows to you on the admin side. So if we move on to the next slide, on the thank you page, we are actually going to remove that user from the group. And we do that with the U3 tag and repeat that group ID. And so anyone who is still in that group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we can set up a recurring message through email campaigns to target just those people and really encourage them either to take a further action or give them a help document or a phone number in case they had a technical issue with registration, but really communicate with them to encourage them to complete their action. We've implemented that with a client recently, and they were able to identify over 2,000 messages that went out as a result of this abandonment recurring message. They were able to trace 166 registrations back to that email, 97 donations, and 29 other actions. The really interesting and kind of cool thing about this is if you look at the statistics of the open rate, almost 51% out of those 2,000 plus emails were opened. Their normal open rate is about 20%. And of the people who opened, or the action on those 2,000 emails was 6.35%, where their normal marketing emails related to this event are 0.3%. So definitely there was value in doing this, and they're going to repeat this year over year. Great way to add an additional touch to the registration flow.
I think that's really interesting, because those people might have come back anyways, probably at some point, right? Because the open rate shows that they were interested. They abandoned for whatever reason, they got sidetracked, or they may have come back anyways. But yeah, to see the results that they raised over $6,500 for people that were in that group, that's really actionable stuff. I like it.
Yeah, and you could do a separate group for each page of the registration flow if you really wanted to see if there was a pain point. But for the communication, it's really, abandon versus not. I'm going to talk a little bit about, like Andrea said, it's about making it easier for people to make donations. And one of the great ways that exists for that to happen these days is by connecting your TeamRaiser personal page with the Facebook fundraiser, rather than people just going to Facebook and setting up their own independent fundraisers. So this slide just kind of talks about the prerequisites. There's a few things that need to happen on the organization side, and then on the Facebook side, and the TeamRaiser side. And there's really great help documentation, and we can certainly jump in and assist with these things. But what I really want to talk about is the benefit of setting up this integration and the benefit to you as the organization for the fundraiser to be connected to the personal page. So Mark, if you go on to the next slide, we'll talk about the benefits. When the Facebook fundraiser is triggered from the participant center, you immediately receive those funds because they are processed through your merchant account. You will always get at least the first and last name of the donor, and you have a better opportunity to receive the email address of the donor because the opt-in on the Facebook donation side is on the actual donation form rather than on the thank you page. Donations to the Facebook fundraiser automatically increase the progress meter on the TeamRaiser side, and donations on the TeamRaiser side automatically increase the progress meter on the Facebook side. So you have that direct connection, and you don't have folks calling you and saying, oh, so-and-so donated on Facebook, but it's not showing in my list. Facebook fundraising has some built-in coaching already included, encouraging you to invite people to your Facebook fundraiser, following up, and so on. And then, like Jeff's going to be talking about in a few minutes, we can do some conditional follow-up on the TeamRaiser side based on whether or not somebody has set up their connected Facebook fundraiser. So the next slide, this shows, so one of the prerequisites is that you need to be running Participant Center 2, version 18 or higher. So that's the top screenshot, and then the lower one is, and if you aren't already on PC3, I highly recommend implementing it. But the Facebook connection is big and front and center at the very top of Participant Center 3. And then finally, I want to talk a little bit about the information you get on your donor and what it looks like. So the top screenshot is donors who have chosen to remain or to not opt in on the Facebook side. You do get their first name and last name, even though it's not showing here. But I wanted to focus on is the email address, and that's a unique identifier that is assigned to that donor within the system. And whether this donor donates once or once a year or to 5 different fundraisers that are connected, they will always be identified with that unique identifier. So you do get that history tied to that person's Facebook donations. The lower screenshot is somebody who did opt in on the Facebook fundraiser side. And so in that case, you get first and last and email. In both cases, the recognition name and in the parentheses in that lower screenshot is always going to say Facebook fundraiser. That is because in TeamRaiser, when somebody makes a donation, we give them a checkbox that says, yes, you can show my name. We don't have that same opportunity on the Facebook side. So the default for privacy is to automatically hide their name and just show that they donated through Facebook.
There was a good question that came up. If I remember correctly, the individual only has one chance to integrate this to their Facebook, but sometimes things happen and they link to the wrong Facebook page or Facebook account and want to reset it. Any chance of that capability happening? I have heard of that. I'm not sure if there's a way to undo that.
I don't think there is, beyond kind of the nuclear option of deleting the registration and re-registering and setting up a new connection.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that would work as long as they hadn't done any fundraising yet. And even then, you can back out. I mean, that's really, taking a few steps back. But yeah, work with them, unregister them, register them back in the back end, or have them re-register and then have them reconnect. Not perfect, but at least it's an option.
Yeah, and you do want to be careful. Once you have turned on Facebook fundraising, if you were to ever change the status of the TeamRaiser to closed or no longer accepting donations, that cuts off everybody's fundraising, even if their fundraising deadline has not passed. So you do want to be, there's a few other things to be aware of, but kind of to your point, Mark, about the error, that would just be one other thing that jumps to my brain.
I like it. Well, I hate everything about Facebook, but it raises money, so devil you know.
And finally, the last thing I'm going to talk about today is milestones and badges. And Andrea talked a little bit about the self-donor badge. That's one of the built-in badges. And in step 8, if you have milestones turned on, you'll see the personal and the team badges. And then the personal badges have 3 parts. You've got an admin notification, you've got a notification email to the participant, and then you have a badge icon on the page. What I want to talk about today is really custom badges. There is a badge kit that is available to implement, and we've actually had some fun with this, I would say. Once you turn on or implement the badge kit, you really have a lot of opportunity and flexibility of the types of badges you can do. Most of the merge fields that are available in an autoresponder or an email, you could tie to a badge. You can tie badges to additional questions in registration. I work with a cancer-related organization. They ask if the person is a survivor, and they ask then if they want a badge on their page. And if they say yes, there's a survivor badge on the page. And Mark, if you want to move on to the next slide, I've just got some examples of some non-monetary personal badges. So you can do badges on participation type. That self-donor badge. You can do badges based on whether or not someone has updated their participant center or their personal page, if they've achieved their goal, whether they've doubled their goal. And if somebody changes their goal, the badge will go away and come back, which is kind of cool. If you have a long-standing event, and you've got some folks that have been with you the whole time and raised a lot of money, you can tie a badge to a field in the Constituent 360 record. This organization manually updates this lifetime raised amount. and at various trigger points will show a different badge based on how much this person has raised in their lifetime of involvement. You know, and in this example, they have somebody who has raised over $500,000 through the 25 years of their event. So they want to recognize that. And then with just a little bit additional modification from the personal custom badges, you can also implement custom team badges. Again, you've got the goal, the amount raised, but you can do badges based on team member recruitment goals and total team members who are registered. So just a lot of, you know, kind of sky's the limit if you want to go that route. And so you can really have some fun with recognizing folks. Keep in mind that these custom badges do not have the associated email notifications. So if you're doing dollar amounts along with your other custom badges, I would implement the message to the participants, but do the badge in the custom kit. And this is just a very simplified screenshot to show you that each set of badges, whether it's personal or team, has 2 reusables in Page Builder plus some code on either the personal page or the team page to make it all work.
And there was a question that came up. Are those achievement badges standard in TeamRaiser, or is that something that only Cathexis can do, and particularly the icon itself? And I think these are custom images, but it doesn't have to be done. I mean, I'm not sure if we designed these or a client designed them, but really anybody can implement these. They are custom, but it can be implemented by anybody. Am I saying that right?
Correct. And you know, some clients, there's other than the self-donor badge, there's not really anything in the system. But you know, if you have a designer on staff, or you want to work with our designers, or if you even want to Google, you know, icons and see what's out there, you know, you upload them to the image library, and then they're available to use.
It's like 45 by 45 or 48 by 48 pixels at its best resolved at, I think, looks the best.
Yes.
And then just, you know, go nuts, whatever you can squeeze into that small size.
Yeah.
Great.
And we'll turn it over to Jeff.
Great, thanks. So next, let's talk about reaching out and communicating with our participants after they have registered. So there's 2 primary ways that you can do this that are built into the system, and those are your coaching emails and then time-delayed follow-up autoresponders. So let's start by talking about the time-delayed follow-up autoresponders. So these are autoresponders that are sent out on a delay based on when the user registered. One of the great things about these is that because they are an autoresponder, they will not adhere to whether or not your participants have opted out of email. And what I mean by that is they are not considered unsolicited. And so they're triggered in response to the email. So this is a great way to get information into your user's inbox. And this is information that you can be confident they will receive. Now, whether or not they'll open it is another question. But you can be sure that it will reach their inbox because it's an autoresponder. So these are great tools to leverage, and you get up to 4 of these with each TeamRaiser event. And what we can do are, you know, there's quite a few things that we can do depending on how much time you want to invest in it and how creative you want to get. But one of the best ways to leverage these is to make use of conditionals. And so we can use conditionals to show content based on whether users have personalized their fundraising page, sent emails, raised a certain amount, whether or not they're a team captain, and more, including, you know, we can warn users that they are opted out of emails. And so the purpose of that would be to make sure that you can encourage users to opt in for the purpose of receiving coaching emails, which would be the next level of reaching out to users after registration. So we can, in addition to using these conditionals to display content based on what users have done, we can encourage users then to update their personal page or thank them if they have. We can encourage them to take advantage of team recruitment or fundraising email templates that we've taken the time to create, and we can inform users about entering offline gifts or entering pledges into their PCs if this is something that we have enabled in the TeamRaiser configuration. And following up on the Facebook integration, if you've taken the time to implement and integrate a Facebook fundraiser for your TeamRaiser event, it's worth promoting it. And so we can use a conditional to check to see whether or not the user has created a Facebook fundraiser. And if they haven't, we can encourage them to do so, and we can use that as an opportunity to talk about how it can increase their fundraising. And so these are, as I mentioned, with by combining conditionals and making smart use of the time delay intervals, we can really capitalize on this opportunity to communicate unhindered with our fundraisers. So they're created or they're edited and managed with the other autoresponders where you would configure your TeamRaiser's autoresponders. And if you want to enable these, you would navigate to step 3, select your event options, edit advanced options, and then navigate to sub-step C, define miscellaneous options. And then you can see here in this screenshot, you just enter a numeric value for the number of days that you'd like these emails to be sent out post-registration. So following the coaching emails, we might want to following the time delay follow-ups, we might want to then leverage our coaching emails. Coaching emails are a really powerful, purpose-built tool for communicating with our participants and our donors for this event. And so there's powerful audience filtering and audience building tools that make it really simple to target different participants, team captains, team members, users who aren't members of a team. If you're leveraging things like the delayed self-pledge, you can target those users as well. Users who might have outstanding unconfirmed gifts. So it's really easy to target users and create that targeted communication. And one thing to remember about coaching emails is that they will respect the user's opt-in and opt-out preference. So if a user is opted out, they will not receive your coaching emails. So placing things placing a conditional in your coaching emails, your participant center, encouraging users and letting them know, hey, you're currently unsubscribed from emails and you might miss out on really important communication. That's a great thing to do, because if you don't encourage that, you don't necessarily want to rely on coaching emails for pertinent event day information, as in last minute changes, course changes, things that might be imperative for users to receive just before the event that you may not have been able to work into your time delay follow-up. So coaching emails are great, but just be aware of the fact that you might have a considerable number of users who aren't receiving them based on opt-out status. So we really encourage you to let users know about that and warn them of that fact, and encourage them gently, of course, to opt in so that they can receive any important communications that might be coming in regards to the event. And so that's all I have for now on coaching emails and follow-ups.
Let me ask you, there's a couple of questions that came in, and also I had a couple of things to add to this. It's a lot, right? And well covered, Jeff. And just to confirm, there was a question that came in, could you do an email to be sent 2 weeks after their personal registration date? And yes, that's specifically what the follow-up autoresponders are for, and that's how they are different than coaching emails. Think of the follow-up autoresponders, as time-released autoresponders based on when an individual registered, versus the coaching emails, which go out to everybody or your specific audience at the same time. Or whenever you schedule it to go out. So, the autoresponder follow up. If you set it to 7 days after, that's a week after they registered. Someone registers today, they get it 1 week from today. Someone registers tomorrow, they get it 1 week from tomorrow. With a coaching email, if you schedule it to go out, on the 3rd of February, everybody receives it on the 3rd of February. So if you're using both, you want to be careful that you don't have someone getting, several emails in the same day. Also added to that, for example, milestone badges that are monetary level based that automatically send out a autoresponder once they fundraise to a certain level. So imagine if they registered and a week later they've raised a bunch of funds, they get to a specific level, and then they also get a coaching email on that day. This person's gonna be like, what is going on? And this is a lot of information, and maybe that's great, but they might be overwhelmed and unsubscribe from everything, like Jeff was saying. So you want to use these things carefully and think about how they're set up. Another question that came in was, once registration has begun, can I change the number of days after registration for the responder, autoresponders? Just thinking, as we get closer to the event date and registration closes, can those dates be changed? I know we've tested that before, but I don't remember the answer offhand. Anybody know?
I believe what happens is, think of your TeamRaiser configuration as kind of being a snapshot in time. And when a user registers, their experience, autoresponders, milestone communications, what they see, what they experience is based on the configuration at the moment in time that they registered.
Got it. Yep. A couple other things about this. The autoresponders. It's interesting because the follow-up autoresponders are in the same list of all the same step as all the other autoresponders, but as Jeff points out, the step to configure the delay periods is way up in step 3, and autoresponders I think are like step 11. So you're like, if you didn't know to look for it, you would no idea where to set those. And you don't have to send all 4. You have a maximum of 4 you can send. But again, it's just taking some time to dig around, or definitely just feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to answer those types of questions. Great. Thanks a lot, Jeff. All right. So I think Andrea's back up again.
Hi. All right. Yeah, I actually will have a point coming up soon that ties back to that. So the next few topics are about user interface for both the participant and donor on TeamRaiser and you as the administrator. So talking about donating and how you set up your TeamRaiser microsite to direct people properly to the donate form. So there's a default way that this works, and if you don't change it, it's going to work really well for you, which is the donate button goes to a page. It's kind of an interim page before the donation form. It goes to the search page that might be labeled Find a Participant. And the reason for that is the assumption that any gift that the donor is going to make is really meant to be credited to their friend, to a team or a participant. Or sometimes they just want to credit the gift to anyone, like to the event overall, and that's fine. So that's what this diagram is showing you with the dark red arrows here. Normally the donate button would first go to the search page and then take them to the donation form. And there's something built into that URL that's called proxy settings. And that's what makes the soft credit. So, and those of you who've been in this game for a while, you understand that the soft credit is who the gift counts toward. So sometimes we kind of run into issues with that. I mean, I think most peer-to-peer events are set up to work to credit the team or the participant, but some of the events that you might be running might be a little different in that maybe it's less, you have less of a focus on that peer-to-peer giving, and people mainly just want to give an event donation. So in that case, you'd follow the gray areas on this diagram where the donate form will go, I mean, the donate button goes right to the donation form. But it's a great idea to also have a link so they have a chance to switch just in case. So Mark, on the next slide, we show more about this switching between the donation form and the search page. So this little inset would be some text you'd have at the top of the donation page that says, please enter your gift to, and then this is the event name, 2021 Crawford Walk, for example. If you prefer to make your gift count for a friend who is fundraising, please search, and then there's a link, search for a fundraiser or team here. So this can help with that problem that you might run into where gifts are not soft credited. And really, anytime you're designing a user interface, you want to take a jobs approach to it, which means what job is the donor trying to do here? And you look at it in such a way that you're like being critical about that and helping the donor do their job more effectively. So, all right, moving on. Content management. So this is talking about those secondary pages in your TeamRaiser event that you usually have in the navigation bar, like FAQ, event details, things like that. When you're setting these up, we recommend that you use the TeamRaiser custom pages in conjunction with page builder reusables. So TeamRaiser custom pages are in, it's usually step 13, sometimes step 12, depending on your TeamRaiser setup. And it's a great idea to keep your content in the page builder reusables, because page builder has version control. And if you work with page builder right, then you make a new version every time you come in to make a change to your page content. So that protects you from editing errors, because if you make a mistake in one version, you can roll it back very easily to the previous version. If you have any sensitive code in there, like you're doing some fancy, styling, that's a good way to protect your CSS and JavaScript from sometimes getting a little messed up by the visual editor. And it preserves the past. So you could go through a whole event cycle where you've got your, how the content changes from week to week throughout your event. And when you restart it next year, you can see what you had at the beginning last year and save you time. So Jeff was mentioning a couple minutes ago, we were talking about those autoresponders and those follow-up autoresponders. You can also put chunks of your autoresponder content in reusables. So if you need to change that, if you anticipate needing to change that content later in your event season, it's changeable. Otherwise, the registrant is going to get whatever was locked in at the moment in time that they registered. So reusables
Good
are
stuff.
okay. More user interface stuff. The dashboards on your administrator homepage. This is an example here of something you could build and put into your admin homepage. You'd have to kind of build this by hand, but you could do that with the visual editor. So if you're frequently administering TeamRaisers, and especially multiple ones, why not put some quick links right there for yourself? You could link to the status page. That's what the status is, which is like deep in TeamRaiser management. So you can just get there with one click. You can make it display your current amount of donations and registrations. So at a glance, you get some efficiency here. And on the next slide, these are also some visual charts these are dashboards that are available in the admin homepage that you can turn on. It's all in Page Builder. If you search for, I believe it's called admin homepage. And some of these, this isn't really TeamRaiser stuff here, but if you're doing email marketing from Luminate, you can see some some statistics about your conversion rate and the number of people in your house file, your monthly donations and all this. So they're kind of old school looking, but this is one of the only places in the Luminate product you can get this, and I think I've used them and they are helpful.
Yeah, I think it's greatly underutilized, and if you've ever been on one of these calls before about Luminate and or TeamRaiser, I always jump on my soapbox about the customizing the admin homepage and pulling in number of participants. Even if there's any field or anything you can report on, there's a way to pull it into content page, and these are all page builder page, so you can drop that in, so as soon as someone logs in they can see these numbers without having to run reports, and I think it's just a real handy thing to have, and can be kind of addictive if it's really the height of fundraising and registration season, and you're logging in several times throughout the day and you see those changes. All right, there was a great stuff. There's a question that came in that I couldn't answer on the fly and multitask appropriately. So let's take a moment. If I have an active survey through the 2020 TeamRaiser with an end date for 2022, that will be available to my 2020 participants once I create our 2022. I think I started that question late. Hold on, let me say. If I have an active survey through the 2020 TeamRaiser with an end date for 2022, will that still be available to my 2020 participants once I create our new 2021 TeamRaiser? It's a post-walk survey I created within Luminate Online Surveys, and I need to go ahead and begin customizing it. And I don't want my participants to lose access to the complete survey. And I think the answer is yes, you can still, depending on how you set up the survey, and everybody correct me where I get this wrong, but if you set up the survey to allow them to review their survey results themselves and also update their survey results, they can log in anytime, and you can point back to that. If you put a link to it in your participant center, or even drop it in there, embed it in there, or however you want to, they can pull up their results and update them, and then save them again, and it wouldn't be lost. Did I answer that correctly, or anything to add, anybody?
Sounds right to me, and just keep an eye on that survey expiration date.
Oh, right, yeah, because they will be set to the default shut off at some time, and if you have it open for years and years and years, you might forget about it, and all of a sudden one day it's not there and you don't know why, and it's just because it has a default shut off date.
And I think I would add, if the survey is linked to within the participant center, when you close the 2020 event, I don't think you have access to the participant center at the point that the event is closed. So you might just want to make sure that the participants have another way to access that survey if they no longer have access to their participant center.
Good stuff. Another question came in. How do you access a national or local page when you can see multiple TeamRaisers and leaderboards? Is that available to add to the admin page? You can add, if you have access to them, you can add either a national view or multiple different TeamRaiser summary reports, or funds raised, all of that kind of stuff. I know that's kind of a generic answer, so yeah, it is all possible. Some of the nuance of that, of how you build it, definitely just play around with it a bit, but if you have any questions and want help, don't hesitate to reach out. All right. Other items, really, again, we're still finding sites that aren't responsive by nature, believe it or not, occasionally. So just make sure you, whenever you build out your new campaign year, or as you're thinking about it, make sure you pull up your phones, your tablets, and your desktops and look at it across all of them, and make sure it looks good. Make sure the calls to action are easy to find, to register, to support, all of that. And if things are kind of in the odd order for you, feel free to, you can work with the coding to reorder things on the page. Don't feel like you're stuck with that. And if you need any help, don't hesitate to reach out. If you haven't already, and as has already been said on this call, move to Participant Center 3. It's a lot more flexible. It's a lot better. It's not a blank slate, but it's a clean slate that you can, you have a base foundation on that you can then customize in a lot of different ways. And it's pretty relatively easy to code. There is coding involved, but definitely a lot of available options. Things you can do in PC3 that you can't do in PC2 are some participants can do is cropping images. They can, if you allow them to, they can update their participant questions. They can move between team memberships. That was a huge thing that they could never do before. Now in PC3, that is an option, and a lot more other just freedom to kind of customize your participant center. A thing that we've customized, because we got a lot of questions for, if you have turned on team fundraising, quite often when someone meant to donate to an individual, they accidentally donated to the team, or vice versa. They meant to donate to the team and they accidentally donated to an individual. We've created this little pop-up JavaScript that we can drop into your TeamRaiser that when someone clicks on donate to the team, it basically pops up and said, oh, are you sure you wanted to do that? That's great. Donate to the team here, or select whichever team member you really meant to donate to. It'll pull up a little search, a selection list based on that team's members. That just saves you a lot of admin time. That's just a few hours of customization that our team has created. So it saves you tons of time. Think about integrating fitness tracking, right? This is becoming more and more important as every event is virtual, or at least some hybrid approach, right? This is some screenshots from one that Jeff recently created, I believe, where this is kind of a manual process, but an individual can, during the registration flow, enter the number of miles, in this case, or number of steps, I should say, they plan on taking, and it even says, how many steps are in the average mile. And it kind of goes along with this organization's mission. So the default is, they recommend is 2,025 steps, which is about a mile. And that's one of the registration questions. And then when they log into their participant center, they can update their progress towards that goal. So like today, I walked a mile, or 1,000 steps, and then, or a half mile, I should say, is 1,000 steps. And they can update that, whenever they want to. And then he even added, I like how I say we when I did nothing. Jeff also added a little custom progress meter to show their progress towards their goal. So in this case, their goal was 200, and he's taken 201 steps. So all the little steps are filled in there. So that's a way to manually, and I think that was like 3 or 5 hours of customization. So really straightforward. Yes, it's manual, but in some cases, many of your participants might prefer to do it that way. There's also things you can do with Strava. Here's a screenshot of dropping in Strava via group or club membership, just an embed. There's different levels. There's even really deep integration that can be done, but that requires the APIs. But just know, if you want to do any kind of fitness tracking, you do have different options, and we can definitely help suggest a few different options. Then there's other customizations that can be done, like a shopping cart. Here's one we built out where folks can basically fill up a shopping cart. This one happens to be for Habitat for Humanity. We've also done a lot for food banks, where they fill in a shopping cart with different groceries and you just keep on adding different things to the cart, and the JavaScript behind the scenes does all the math and really just adds a donation in that amount. So just kind of a more interactive way, mission-connected way for folks to be able to, see where their money's going and tie it back to the mission. By default, donors allowing donors to cover the transaction fees isn't built into TeamRaiser or Illuminate, but in just a few hours of JavaScript, we can spin something like that up as well. So it can automatically, you can decide how much of the say for example 3%, 4%, 2%, whatever you want that to be, we can add some JavaScript that shows the additional donation that is covered by the donor, and that definitely helps raise a lot more funds. It all adds up, right? Even offer up a kind of currency converter. So, if everything in your instance is in US dollars, but you have a campaign that's going to be in Canadian dollars or Great British pounds or euros or whatever it might be, you can even customize it to show what that 10-pound donation would process in USD, US dollars on the receipt, so no one's confused when they get the receipt. Also things like doing pop-ups for monthly giving, just reminding people, hey, great, this is your gift, a one-time donation of $100, or have you considered just changing that to a monthly gift of, say, $10? And you might convert more people to do that. It's less at the one time, but hopefully over the life of that, you'll see a lot more donations come in. And, little reminders or pop-ups that come in before they process that can really make a difference. And then embedding things like double donations, matching gifts, also verifying, checking to see if people's employers will match funds is another great way to and return on investment on these is really high for a low cost. You can see a lot of return by dropping in tools like this. So let me see. Feel free to, as I'm wrapping up here, here's some resources, my contact information. You can change the mark to any one of the other speakers' names and you will get them. Feel free to reach out to any of us, and we still have a couple minutes left, so feel free to ask questions and I will check what else has come in. One of the questions that came in is, how do I update to Participant Center 3? So every TeamRaiser is assigned a participant center. So when you go into Manage TeamRaiser, one of the options, anybody know what step it is offhand? Is to select your participant center, and you just need to point to PC3. So I would jump over and show it in our sandbox, but I'm sure doing that live I'd do a horrible job. Yes, Andrea.
Yeah, you need to set it up, like you said, in TeamRaiser TeamRaiser. There's a tab overall on the TeamRaiser list page for your participant center. So first you need to create PC3, and then you need to go in to edit your particular TeamRaiser and set it. I think it's in step 3.
There you go.
And depending on the age of your instance, it might be pre-populated with Participant Center 3 if it's been newly created, but if it's an older instance, you'll need to create it or upgrade one of your previous ones to PC3, and always make a copy when you're upgrading. Don't copy the live participant center.
Yeah, and of course my instance is moving really slowly right now because I'm trying to do this live and it's a sandbox. So forget I just tried to do that live on air. But if you can't find it, or if you have any issues or questions or anybody, feel free to reach out to us. And I think that's all the questions, which is great timing because we have reached the end of our time. I want to thank everybody for joining, but also want to thank Marcy, Andrea, and Jeff for all the insight. And I think you'll be followed up with a survey. Let us know what you thought. Let us know what you'd like to hear about for future sessions. And don't hesitate to reach out with any questions at all. And I hope everybody has a great day. Thanks.